Respect.
Acknowledgement.
Awareness.
Empathy. Respect.
Student support.
Equity.
Equality.
Diversity. Clicky.
Exclusivity. Inclusivity. Understanding.
Love. Oh, this is a video. Love.
Change.
Diversity.
Inclusivity.
Go.
Safe. Creative.
Go. Clicky.
Pressure.
The love.
Community.
Go.
Accepting.
If I could change one thing at Drake, I would try and increase the diversity in the staff. I think that would help them connect with students more and help students who are underrepresented here feel like they have more people to go to. Well, I think just raising the issue and letting people know, because I think everyone here is really well-intentioned, but they don't always think of things or think of the issue, so bringing it up and bringing it to people's attention so that when you are looking for new staff and stuff like that, it's something that you consider.
Probably the communication between different races and like different people from different backgrounds isn't that good. Like people from Mill Valley and Sausalito and Bayside and Willow Creek, all that, the communication isn't there. Like we're not on the same page when we could be. And just like the basics of hanging out or being friends, like that togetherness could be there. Probably more opportunities for those people, students from Willow Creek and Bayside to be in more programs, and like for our school district to actually reach out to them, people higher up in the schools, because sometimes we don't know about all these things like leadership or Link Crew or other things that get you connected to other students here. So I feel like that would be important to do.
I'd probably change like the general conversation about race, starting kind of with the teachers and the administration, like using their power as educators to kind of like initiate conversations, and then like eventually turning the conversations about race and racism and how it affects our students and teachers into action and into like policy for our school, into like how we could have like our conversations are about, and like the well-meaningness everybody has or a lot of kids have, into like actual things that can better the experience of kids of color, and like how other people acknowledge how their privilege intersects with how they can help our community to become better.
But how would you help them? Like, how exactly, what do you think the first step would be to getting there? Other than using just the school staff, just the school board, like, how would you get everyone involved?
So we would have rallies like we do now, but they would be more frequent and they would be more interactive, and we could have, you know, like a whole rally around racism led by students of color, just like leading workshops, and something like Breakthrough Day, but a little bit more effective and a little bit more personal to like, how does racism actually affect this community? What are the personal stories, so you can kind of humanize all the issues and like initiate everyone, because like having this conversation is mandatory, whether it's something that people enjoy having or not. And I think that if you have like a mandatory discussion, it will become something that's just so second nature and so voluntary for the student body to have. It will just become a normal thing to talk and take action about how we can eliminate racism from our community and talk about it and raise awareness about it. So how could we get more information out there to have those beginning conversations before we turn it into action? We could talk about the very real life issues that pertain to high school students. Like how the criminal justice system from a very young age targets kids of color, and it works into the whole idea of the racist capitalist kind of machine that our country is, and how, again, like I said, like we can personalize the issue before we actually take action on it, so we could make sure that people know that this is very real, whether you experience that or not. It's very real for the people around you, and we could have screenings of movies like 13th. We could talk about the history of racism in our community and in our nation. We could talk about what's happening now. We could talk about personal stories, and we could basically say like, this is not something to joke about because this is a lived experience that people have. So making it clear that it's very real and it's very close to you is a good first step before we take action as an entire community.
But even sometimes when you take something that's close to you, people will tend to make fun of it, you know? Like, if I were to do something to say that I got bullied by this person, people would call me a snitch, correct?
Yeah.
So how do we keep people's immunity and their privacy to themselves, but also put out in the world if they don't want them to know?
Well, personal stories in the sense, I mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, personal stories in the sense that you don't want to like mascot people of color into like sharing their stories about racism, because racism and ethnocentrism is very scary and it's very exposing and belittling. So I think what you need to do is you can have kind of an anonymous presentation of statements that people can make or not make about how they've seen racism play into their experience and the implications that it has, just being a student, walking around these halls. And I mean, I think that if you really want to like have this jumping off point be something that's very serious, but also doesn't put so many kids who experience this on the spot, you want to start by having that representation with teachers, with like that guy was in that video was saying, like having that representation of teachers so you can just see people who are adults, functioning adults in the world who've like lived this experience and don't necessarily need to talk about it, but just you know that they've gotten to a place where they have a certain knowledge of racism, being in a school community, growing up in a school community, you know, working in one that still has those implications of racism in it.
What do you feel that you need to do to feel accepted or make other people feel accepted?
Make other people feel accepted, just make sure they don't exclude us from anything, like they feel welcome.
Do you feel accepted at Drake High School, and what makes you feel like that?
I feel like I'm accepted by my peers and the people that I hang out with, like my friends, and even people that like I'm just acquaintances with. Like I've never had really that many bad interactions with people, but on some levels I feel kind of unaccepted. Like I could be targeted for certain things, like random searches and people looking into my cars for no reason just to try and find something that's bad. So like, I don't know, I've had a couple bad experiences, but overall I feel accepted. I mean, to be honest, like, depends on who they are, because like, I don't know, if I don't really know the person, I'm not really the type of person to go up to them and ask them if they're okay, and like, I'm just being honest, but like, if I have any interaction with them and they tell me that they need help, then being accepted, then I would definitely be willing to do that.
Go!
I'm Pasha Yakbali, and today I'll be interviewing Stephanie in class. Stephanie, if there was a problem at TAM of why a student wouldn't be accepted, what do you think that problem would be?
Because they were gay, or they were like black, or they were like weird. Or they were like, I don't know, they were like weird.
I think that more people need to realize that, like, it's not just, it's not what you look like, it's who you are. So.
I feel pretty accepted here because, like, I don't really care what anyone says. But, like, there's, like, other people that I know who probably don't feel that accepted. No, I don't think it's much of a race thing. I think it's more of, like, who you hang out with, or, like...
How you dress.
Kind of how you dress, yeah. Or, maybe how much, like, what you have, like, it's, like, more, like, materialistic things, like, what you have, like, oh my god, if you don't have Lululemons, like, you're ugly. Or, like, you know, if, like, oh, you have a $5, like, water bottle, like, wow, you're ugly. Like, you know, you need to have, like, that hydro flask, like, everybody, go get yourself a hydro. Like, I don't feel like anyone really makes fun of, like, oh my god, like, you're Mexican, go back to your country. Like, unless you're, like, beefing with someone, like, and they'll just say that as, like, to get you mad. Okay, well, like, I just don't think you'll ever be able to change, like, the materialistic things. Because, like, no matter what, even, like, if, like, nobody really cared, if you had, like, a super expensive, like, pair of leggings or, like, a $400, like, sweatshirt. Like, I don't, like, even if they didn't care, like, you'll just want to get it, like, just so, like, you could say you have it. So, like, no matter what, like, everyone's gonna, like, always try and, like, get the best of something, like, if they can, you know? I know. Hi, my name is Selena Marmolejo Valdivia, and today I am going to be interviewing Kennedy Dora. And my question for her is, how do you feel at Redwood High School? Do you feel accepted?
I mean, yeah, I feel accepted. I mean, there's a lot of diversity here.
Really?
Yeah.
Redwood is not diverse. 11% are Hispanic, 1% are African American, About 60 or I think it's like 80% are actually white. What makes you feel accepted here?
I guess my friends.
If you didn't have your friends, would you feel accepted?
Probably not.
Why would you not feel accepted?
Because I wouldn't know anybody here.
Why can't you make new friends?
It depends. Like I'm like the type of person who like see what type of friends are, like stoners, you know, like nerds, like that. You know?
Are you categorizing people?
No. This is how I see things.
Yeah, how would you make people feel accepted?
Maybe make a little video.
If you could change one thing at Drake, what would it be?
I would want students to venture outside themselves and do what is not expected of them. Don't just read an article, listen to a podcast, go talk to someone, go engage with someone that doesn't think like you, look like you, act like you. Branch out, and there's a lot of value in that, and I don't think we take advantage of that enough at Drake.
Boom. One thing that I would change at Drake High School is the way that students interact with each other based on their preconceived notions of like who that person is. So I think one thing that I could do to help change that is just talk to more people and just always try and get to know someone for who they actually are and not who I think they would be based on other notions or other preconceptions.
I think one of the things that I've seen, I'm only a year and a half old at Drake, so I'm basically still an infant here learning the school. But something that I feel would be really beneficial, I've heard from some students, is around race mainly, is just more education around other people of backgrounds and cultures and why people feel the way they do around certain topics, around Black History Month or around Asian Pacific Islander Month, or why do we celebrate those months, and who are the people of importance, and so I feel like education in general around the importance of diversity and what diversity brings to a community, but also really in particular history, historical context and education around different races and ethnicities and backgrounds, including actually religion, because we talked about after this incident in Halloween with the swastika, about why would someone draw a swastika, where did that come from? Even though we think that lots of people have education on the Holocaust, some people don't. And so knowing and having that education is important to pass down so that younger generations have it and not assuming that people should know.
Yeah, and I would add on to that. I think especially with the budget cuts that we're having, it's hard to attain this, but specifically with our history courses here, they're pretty Eurocentric and don't really include a lot of those other cultures that are super, super important, especially in America, which was built because of all these different cultures coming together. And so I think maybe adding that in, I know it's tough to get another history course happening, but having that as an option or encouraging our current history teachers to add that more into their curriculum or even initiate a discussion about it, I think could help with that educational aspect.
Another thing would be having a way to channel student voice, or a way for students to voice how they feel about something that happens on campus or something that needs to be changed. I know we have a school group now that's focused on that, and I feel like that's really an amazing start. And other students may have feelings or may have opinions, and finding a way to hear from all voices as to what could happen, what next steps should happen after an incident like the swastika thing happened, what should be done or what could be done. Having that medium, I don't know if that really is present here, and I feel like a lot of students have felt frustrated with that.
These things happen where the graffiti is an example of that, and right away it's addressed by administration, which maybe does not address it in the way that students would want it to be addressed. And so I think that having student voice is really, really important, and that we would maybe approach it in a different way than an adult would, as far as saying the news to the community and what follows with the procedure of how to deal with an incident when it has happened. And I think that students are surprisingly, I know high schoolers can be a bit immature, but I think students can be surprisingly mature when it comes to things like this, and that having students dealing with it instead of just the administrators right away saying this is how we're going to deal with it, this is how we're going to present the information, and this is what we're going to send in the email to the parents. Having students input on that, I think, would be really beneficial and would help with even the educational part, just getting the information out there about what's happening, what's going on, how are we dealing with it.